Alright, hello everybody, it's me, the Crusade guy. I've totally back from being gone for less than 3 months, and I figured, you know what, I think I should come out of the basement and actually do something with myself, so, I'm gonna set the scene for you, just imagine it's the 1980s, the Cold War is at its peak, and coming to a close end as things between the U.S. and the USSR, heat up thanks to the famous Reagan Doctrine. NATO forces needed something to bring a bit more oomph to the playing field, to stay up to date with anything the Soviets would kind of crap out. So, ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you FN Hairstyle was founded on July 3rd, 1889 in Hairstyle, Belgium. Wow! They are known for a variety of weapons such as the M249, the Browning High Power, the FAL, the F2000, the SCAR, and at one point the M2 Browning, because I guess they made that. They made all the cool guns, and one other thing, they made the Model 1910, which was used to kill Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So there you go. FN Hairstyle lore video over. Cue outro. Designated as Project 9.0 or Project 90, as some would say, that would also be made alongside the FN 57, aka the killer of homeless people. NATO wanted to replace their vast assortment of 9mm pistols and subguns because I guess Soviet body armor is a thing. Wink! Which, it's not true, probably, but, you think the Soviets are smart enough to have body armor? Oh, no! Didn't think so. Moving on. NATO also wanted these weapons to be either equal or less than 6.6 pounds and have a minimum magazine capacity of 20 rounds. Another requirement was that the user should be able to carry the gun hands-free whilst in a vehicle. This includes a cab, tank, and I guess aircraft. Who the f wrote this script? Whoa! I got that in there. And they wanted to perform well in all environments and weather conditions. Kind of sounds like the UCP and OICW program. FN would do some slight ammunition changes, and I need the second page to the script.
Sir, yes, sir.
Would do slight modifications on the 5.7 by 28mm cartridge to allow usage between both the 5.7 pistol and the P90. So when a gun company makes a cross-compatible weapon platform, and in 1990 we get our first P90 model, and continued improvements went up until 1993, most in regards to the ammunition itself. Fast forwarding to 2002 and 2003, NATO would test the 5.7 cartridge against HK's MP7's 4.6mm cartridge, and NATO judges, to sum it up, said the P90 blew the MP7 out of the park. But Germany, like in every conflict, either political or war-wise, they get super butthurt and they veto the certification of the new PDW and the pistol, and forever, up until 2021, where they finally certify 5.7. So, for the time being, NATO didn't have a new cartridge and new weapons, so thanks, Krauts. However, not all was lost. Some countries, like Belgium, would use the P90 for law enforcement and their own military. The United States would use the P90 for the Secret Service for a time, and a bunch of other special operations forces across the world would use the weapon for counter-terrorism operations, which, speaking of which, I happen to know one. In December of 1996, the terrorist organization known as the Tupac Amaru Revolutionary Movement.
Tupac? Is that actually what they're called?
Yeah.
What the There's a Japanese embassy in Peru? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Alright, my bad, Chief.
In December of 1996, the terrorist organization known as the Tupac Amaru Revolutionary Movement took control of the Japanese embassy in Lima, Peru, and took about roughly 600 hostages. The Peruvian government denied the terrorists all of their demands and condemned their attack. Over time, the rebels slowly released hostages not related to the Peruvian government, but they left about 72 hostages still within their control. At first, they tried to peacefully negotiate with the terrorists, which, like all negotiations with people with negative IQ, it stalled, and a squad of Peruvian troops were killed after playing music at a vigil, and all hope of peace was lost. So the Peruvian armed forces devised a plan to dig a tunnel under the Japanese embassy where the hostages were being held, and the rescue force literally had a replica of the place at a military school in which they trained prior to the assault.
That's fucking fire.
It is fire, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm reading this, I'm like, okay. And they trained in preparation for the assault, which in my opinion is pretty based. They also had bugged items, everything from paperweights to clothes that they could use to spy on the rebel forces. And on April 22nd, 1997, Operation Chavan do Hontar was in effect. The hostages and the rebels heard the digging underneath them, and the hostages were moved to the second floor of the complex they were in. And the commandos detonated 3 charges in 3 different rooms across the complex. A little fun fact for y'all: while this whole operation was happening, there was a soccer game going on inside of the complex. And 2 of the players who happened to be terrorists got geeked from the first detonation.
Latin America moment.
That's
such a fucking Latin America moment.
And a secondary team came in from the front to storm in and link up with the initial assault team, and a third team came in from the rear cleared out the rest of the complex. All 14 of the rebels were killed.
Get
real. Yeah, you know how many guys they sent? 148. But there are reports of potential commandos executing the rebels that they did capture by order of the embassy staff, supposedly. Well, whether or not it's true has yet to be confirmed. But regardless, all the hostages made it out alive, with only one of them dying after being rescued due to a leg wound, and 2 operators died during the fighting. Later on, the Peruvian Congress proclaimed the commandos as heroes of democracy in recognition for their service. A Peruvian poet reflected on what had occurred and wrote, "Nobody expected this efficiency and this speed. In military terms, it was a first world job, not third world." The P90 would make a bunch of appearances in Western media and would become an icon amongst autists like myself and the guy totally holding the script. Its first Western appearance would actually be in a 007 movie and double team with Dennis Rodman and Jean-Claude Van Damme. The P90 would be seen in the hands of your stereotypical security guards and very fancy henchmen and the all blacked out special forces teams and other shows and such. However, it's the video games is where the fame is really at. Yay! It, ironically enough, featured in the very first 007 game. Also made an appearance in Fallout 2 and literally every Call of Duty, Battlefield, and every tactical shooter that isn't complete crap. And going back to the Fallout part, they labeled the P90 as being made by H&K, which I think is a little funny because, you know, H&K didn't win the contract for the MP7, so fat L on their hand. But I guess in the Fallout universe, H&K makes the P90. So who did they veto themselves in that universe? But I guess people like some silly sci-fi looking guns chambered in a silly round for a silly purpose, because I guess NATO had a totally hard time with totally real Soviet Kevlar. Wink, wink. But I guess that's all what I got for you tonight. Tune in next time when I get to Akimbo M16A2s.
Fire!
Where am I placing this mic?
Just throw that shit on the fucking desk. Alright. That's that.